All right. We are here, Michael Huber, Ben Moore, Brad Ellis, and myself, Brandon Jones, to talk about Avengers. It has been a couple weeks. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the last couple weeks, so it has certainly taken me a little bit of time. I still have just a couple extra Avengers Initiative missions, but they're all the repeats. So I think I have a pretty good handle on the story. I'm very curious to get all of the feedback from these gentlemen here. But I advise you, if you are watching this video, first of all, thanks for being a patron, and second of all, this is going to get into spoilers. We're going to talk about the campaign. We're going to talk about the Avengers Initiative, which does have spoilers, does have iconic missions that you can do that have a lot of cool story points that we're going to get into, and generally anything that we feel free to talk about without having to worry about people that have not finished Avengers yet. So you've been warned. Avengers spoilers start right now.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode activated.
All right, let's dig into it. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. Avengers is a game that has issues. Avengers is a game that we wish would be different. But I kind of like that we can kick off the conversation today talking about what I think is like the best thing in the game. I think this campaign is fantastic. I wish I reviewed it, so I rushed through it. I wish I didn't actually get a chance to play any of these story missions multiplayer. I think I might have played one of them multiplayer, but I enjoyed playing this. I enjoyed particularly just all of the characters being revealed. And because I initially was disappointed when I was like, oh, there's only 6, and when you get to the campaign, it's like, okay, they really do spend a lot of time with these specific characters. There's a lot, big skill trees to dive into. But I was just curious, you can speak to your favorite characters to play as well. But going into the campaign, Michael Huber, what character moments really stood out for you in the story?
Everything with Kamala. Like, one of my favorite characters in video games of 2020. I'm not exaggerating. I just really liked her viewpoint on the Avengers situation and just her growth, like starting out obviously in the prologue as a youngster, just as a total fan of the Avengers, like encountering them individually just during A-Day. Just anything with Kamala and Bruce's relationship as well, them helping each other kind of see different sides of themselves, him helping her become a hero and then her helping him come back from the brink as Hulk. And, like, we still need you.
Yeah.
Like, giving him the power to forgive himself for, like, everything that has transpired and gone down.
Ben, did you have the same impressions?
Yes and no. I think it's interesting being removed for a while. So I finished Avengers a few weeks ago. And I did enjoy going through it, and I agree with that sentiment. And I do agree also that Kamala is the best part of the campaign. She's definitely the most developed, which was intentional. But I think the more time that I've had to reflect on it, the more negative I've become. Like, I think Kamala is really, really good, and some of the moments that she has with some of the Avengers is great. She has a great moment with Tony. She has a great moment with Bruce. But I think the villains really let me down.
For sure. Yeah.
I think that sometimes it felt like we were just kind of plowing ahead and I didn't really care about what I was fighting against. And I think it was, the campaign was better than I was expecting, but it wasn't on the level for me or really close to something like Insomniac Spider-Man or the Arkham series. And definitely enjoyed it. Probably for sure my favorite part of the game. But there were things that I think it also kind of lost steam a little bit the further along that it went. And you'd have like a really good moment and then you would do a mission and then you'd be like, wow, this mission isn't really that different or exciting compared to what I was doing earlier. Like, it's kind of just the same thing. But that being said, I do appreciate some of the set piece moments that they have that are great. I think Captain America escaping was really well done and fun and very exciting. I think Tony flying in space with Iron Maiden playing, right, as a very big metal fan, like, it felt like pandering to me, but it was great, and I do think there were moments that really captured everybody, but not really enough for me to be like, yes, I think that was fantastic. Like, there's definitely sparks for sure.
Yeah, Brad, anything you want to add before we can?
I kind of fall in line more with Ben. I had a good time. Some things worked for me, some things didn't. Like, surprisingly, Iron Man's usually not one of my favorite characters. Like, I can only handle him for a little bit of time. But I actually really liked when he's introduced to the story at his estate or whatever, and Hulk and him, they're like going back and forth. They're like peeling the onion back on these guys' emotions, and they're kind of just letting off steam. I think that was kind of one of my favorite story parts.
Yeah.
Nice.
But some things like Thor, I just kind of felt like we're like
Thor,
thrown in a little.
Kind of didn't do a lot.
He just kind of showed up.
I was surprised. I mean, we get into the little bit of the Avengers Initiative, but I was surprised like we didn't get any Asgard anything. There's a tease of Loki and later on, but it was like it was the first thought I had, because one of my criticisms in the review is it's like robots and soldiers. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no aliens. There's no like weird things. There's no magicians. The Marvel universe is large, and the Avengers fight a lot of weird things, and I was like, just Asgardians, man, please, just something. I didn't even like get to see what he was really up to. Like, he said he was like helping people out or something like that. I don't recall anything where I'm like seeing him doing what he's doing, so I can kind of connect with that. I feel like everyone else kind of got a little more except him.
It's so weird. Thor, and I actually think this criticism applies to Black Widow as well. I think Thor is the worst example, and I'm glad you brought that up, Brad. But I think Black Widow could have used a little bit more time in the narrative as well. But as far as Thor goes, it's funny that we say like he just kind of shows up in the story, because when you're playing him, he doesn't feel that way mechanically. I actually think he's very well thought out, and he has so many great design decisions, like the way that you use your hammer and you're like spinning it around, or you can pin somebody to the wall, or the way that you can use the Bifrost as an ultimate. Like, all of this stuff feels creative and different from the other characters. That it's very jarring when you kind of compare it to how he's presented in his story. And he has a couple of moments where you kind of chuckle to yourself, but there's nothing really super meaningful to latch onto there.
Yeah, for Black Widow, I actually felt that she was. We'll get to the MCU in just a second, Huber. But like, I felt she was like a little more, not necessarily abrasive, but like just a little more of an attitude than Scarlett Johansson. One of my bits that I loved is when she texts the Avengers to let them know that Kamala's been kidnapped and that she's gonna have to go, rescue her. She calls them idiots. She's like, "Hey, idiots! Like, hi, it's me. I'm way ahead of you. You guys need to stop yelling at each other, and we should probably go help this person who's in distress."
Like Ben was saying about the story losing steam, like that was when it was the most exciting, when Kamala was trying to meet up with Tiny Dancer, who turned out to be Black Widow. Like, all that spycraft was really cool. And then
really the first Avengers introduced in the story was Black Widow. We didn't really know it at the time. But.
And then she kind of just takes a back seat. Really, it feels like. It's
funny because you hear her voice when she's chasing Kamala, like, on the rooftops, and I'm like, that sounds like Black Widow.
I think I knew at the time. I was just like, I'll file that away as a surprise.
Huber, to your point, I kind of feel like the exact moment where it starts to lose steam is when Iron Man and Hulk are sort of having that fight, and then they kind of just like crash and everybody leaves, because the way that they kind of come back, it just feels a little bit too, I don't know, forced or convenient. Like, there's just sort of a resolution to it in a way that wasn't very satisfying to watch unfold. And I felt the same about eventually facing off with MODOK. Like, when I got to MODOK, I wasn't like, oh man, they've been building up to this so well. It was just like, I've kind of been fighting identical things, and now I'm fighting MODOK.
Yeah, when the Avengers were assembling, it just felt routine. It didn't really feel earned.
Right.
I liked Kamala's interactions with them one-on-one, but when the focus was on kind of them interacting and assembling, it just felt, okay, this is an obligation. Like, obviously they're going to assemble. It didn't feel very nuanced. But like Brad was saying, though, I did like the scene with Tony and Bruce first encountering each other and like hashing out all their bad blood. That was a good scene. And then I do want to bring up the villain really quick. I liked that Monica was actually the one pulling the strings. Like, I really liked that. I was not expecting that, so I was in the end, the more I thought about it, I was into it. Going through the games, I was like, all right, these villains are pretty generic. But the final set piece, I really liked the Kree sentry coming down. That was a surprise because like Inhumans and the Kree tied to each other, all that.
Yeah.
So love that.
I agree about like when it happened and that Kree sentry came up and Kamala got huge. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. I just immediately thought of God of War 1.
Sure, definitely. Sure.
Just instantly.
Yeah.
But the way that it actually played out, it wasn't as exciting to control as it was to kind of watch in a way, and that let me down a little bit. And to your Monica point, in a weird way, I almost think the Avengers Initiative made me not care about Monica because what you're doing in the Avengers Initiative is like there's kind of this grand overarching quest that takes a long time to do, and it's all like you see Monica when you hover over it, and I think it would be more interesting if it was like, okay, every time I like move along, I get some huge piece of information or uncover a bit more of Monica's schemes.
Totally.
But I really just felt like I was like whittling away at wood, you know, like I kept cutting, but I really wasn't getting anything in return. And so obviously you're going to feel that a little bit with repeatable content, but it also kind of felt like a missed opportunity.
Sure.
Totally.
I wonder if they were inspired, because it's so hard not to draw comparisons to this and Spider-Man. I was like legit shocked when they said Spider-Man was going to be exclusive to PS4, and they were like, no, it's our own Spider-Man. It's like, what are you doing making your own Spider-Man? What? We saw Avengers Tower in New York. Like, how did this not happen? Like, did this meeting fail? Or like, did this conversation never start? Like, is Spider-Man going to bump into a weird new Iron Man that we're like, another one? Come on, you know. So it's weird to me that these universes are separate, but like it feels like Crystal Dynamics tried to go, and I don't want to drag Spider-Man spoilers into this, tried to go the route that Spider-Man did of focusing on a villain's origin story throughout. You had all these other characters, you obviously had the central heroes doing what they were doing, but it was this revisiting of the origin story of you know, a well-known villain and of a, you know, someone that has a very close relationship to Peter. It's just we didn't get nearly enough time with Monica and MODOK, and like, who cares about them really? Like nobody, like Kamala doesn't know them. The Avengers don't care about them. Like they, I'm just going back and kind of getting a refresher going through all my review clips. The first time we see Bruce, he sneaks up to Monica and he says, you snuck out early this morning. And it's like, oh, right. They were like sleeping together. And it's like that, he's kind of upset about mostly about her research, but like they didn't really, you know, capitalize on that. There were no really like emotional stakes. You know, it was really just Kamala and and these Avengers being upset, and there's 4 villains, man. It's like for a multiplayer game, for like to have Spider-Man be single player and this be a multiplayer game, especially going into Initiative, not having like one new villain.
Taskmaster was so lame.
Yeah,
Taskmaster is like just almost lame.
So,
so lame, and like Abomination. I guess that was a cool mission, like early on. That was a cool intro to Abomination, but I wanted him to like maybe double down and be more menacing. Well, I guess it did show that like Monica and MODOK were in complete control because even Abomination was just like helpless in that one scene late. So I get that, but it was at the disservice of these other supporting villains, and it made them all kind of feel weak for it.
2 points. I both think you brought up excellent points. And Brandon, to your thing about Monica, I feel the same way about MODOK, where he says why he's doing what he's doing, but I don't feel like there's ever really a scene that truly captures his hatred for the Avengers or the conflict there. Like it feels like a more like he just kind of comes out and says it and then goes into the background for way too long. Like there's not a convincing and consistent motivation for him. Like I feel like it just fades away far too easily as the story is going on. And like it could be cool. I think what they have there could be interesting, but they don't fully capitalize on it. And to your point about Taskmaster, I actually think when you're going and you're fighting Taskmaster, when they're talking about like kind of his hatred of S.H.I.E.L.D. and like, you know, missions gone bad or just bad blood between him and S.H.I.E.L.D., like I don't think that would have to be lame. It's just they're delivering it in the absolute lamest way. Like,
yes.
Considering how you just sort of interact with S.H.I.E.L.D. and it feels like it just kind of happens in the main campaign, I feel like they could have taken that Taskmaster story that they have and put it into the campaign, and it would have made like Taskmaster matter more. It would have made S.H.I.E.L.D. matter more.
100%.
But it just feels like weirdly cut out in a way. Yeah.
Because you gotta grind Taskmaster clones in the Avengers Initiative.
But then when you're like, it's a Taskmaster clone, it just sucks. Like,
so sucky.
That does suck. Damn.
Yeah.
I didn't even do that.
Yeah, there's clones.
Why?
They do kind of contextualize like how annoying that is a little bit. Like there is like the VO is a little loaded in the Avengers Initiative where they're like, another clone, like thanks guys, sorry, we have to take care of it, like it sucks to send you guys out to do, clean up this trash, but we can't just let
that's so weird,
Taskmasters
Jones.
go running around.
From like a design standpoint, like that's like the developers knowing that this is annoying and sucks, and they're just like, eh.
I think it's a lose-lose scenario. I think if you're gonna make me fight the same villains over and over again, there's no way to make that cool.
Really quick too,
just literally hunting XP, unless it's like a different environment every single time. I booted Abomination off the building and Taskmaster. That was pretty fun.
Nice.
I like that they at least did that. That they because like Taskmaster's got a jetpack. I was like, oh, he's gonna fly back up, and they were like, you did it. Here's your XP. I was like, yeah.
Ben, you said about MODOK's kind of just like disappears and then is like rah, you know. That was such kind of a letdown because I wanted to see his deterioration. You don't really see him deteriorate for Tarleton into full on MODOK. It's just like he's gone for a while, then he like discovers, gets more powerful, and then the next time we see him he's pretty much full on MODOK.
Right.
Like if we had seen the struggle, I think that would have gone a long way.
Mm-hmm. On a positive note, something that I do appreciate is you have a lot of elevator rides in Avengers, and they do try to use that opportunity, I think, in our ways, whether they're just like delivering you mission info or the banter between some of the Avengers and that adds just a smidge of personality, and I think that goes a long way. Because you were talking about, Brandon, like them making their own Spider-Man, and I totally get that. But for the most part, in terms of like portrayal of these characters, I really don't have a problem with it. Like I think Thor was underused, but I don't have a problem with the way that like Thor is interacting. I guess there were times with Iron Man where I'm like, this doesn't sound like Iron Man. This sounds like Nolan North in a way that was kind of like jarring, or like Nolan North Deadpool or something.
Cover your eyes!
He screams a lot.
Yeah.
80% of his lines he like shouts, and it's just it's a little grating. Especially because I was telling Huber, like a lot of RDJ's performances were like very subdued, very dry. Just like a billionaire philanthropist. He's not like billionaire philanthropist.
Well, RDJ's portrayal of Iron Man, I feel like, is legitimately they try to portray him as a consistently incredibly smart individual, and there are times with this Crystal Dynamics Iron Man where you're like, he's kind of dumb. Like, why would you do that? Like, I know that you're making I Am Iron Man the password as a joke, but that's kind of a dumb thing to do. I don't think he would actually do that.
But while we're on the topic of the MCU, I think one of the issues with Thor was just that like Hemsworth just ran the gamut, man. I mean, we got like classic Thor Hemsworth, we got moody Thor Hemsworth, we got like short hair comedic Thor Hemsworth, we got like retribution Hemsworth. Like he did so many different Thors that I could see them being like the only other way I could see to take it is just kind of hearkening back to him with like the glass and like I'll have another, just not understanding how Earth works, because he doesn't spend a lot of time here. Like he knows the Avengers, but
I think the live service stuff directly hurt Thor the most. I think we're gonna get some Asgardian Thor Loki future content that is like almost an automatic given, and I does that make it okay? Like again, this story, did it really need Thor? Like I'm kind of torn. Like at one point, on one hand, Thor feels like filler kind of in this game, But then on the other hand, it is kind of Kamala's story and just bringing everyone together. And then knowing kind of Thor is obviously going to get more play down the line. Like, I'm torn on it all.
I actually get where you're coming from with that kind of tug of war that's going on in your mind, Hubert.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in the story, I think it's actually smart to focus on Kamala. And when they did that, it was some of the best stuff. I actually think they could have focused on Kamala even more than they did.
Me too.
So, and I would actually be way okay with that, but you can't give these characters iconic missions, put their individual icon on the map, and, you know, treat it like a different special thing, and then have the mission basically feel the same as everything else that you're doing, and not feel like it's really giving you that super unique character that you're so excited, character story that you're so excited about to be involved in, right? And like Brad was saying, like one of his favorite moments was, you know, kind of going to Tony's estate and that interaction with Bruce. That felt very Iron Man-y. I feel like when you're doing these iconic missions, that sort of flavor doesn't bubble up, really.
Sure.
Yeah, because like Loki comes and that should have been some dramatic thing, and he's just like, haha, Loki, see you soon. Or it's like so anticlimactic. Like it just feels so haphazard, like thrown in there of just like, hey, you know, this will lead somewhere down the line, maybe. Like, yeah, it just felt kind of phoned in, tacked on.
Yeah. I think one of the issues that they faced as well is just like the general structure of the game. You know, like it like even just the campaign in the beginning, like it functions like, or it starts with kind of a one-to-one. You're just strictly following Kamala's story. But like once you bring in other characters, once you can kind of choose which Avengers you want to bring in, it takes on the Avengers Initiative. Like now you're flying here to do a mission. Now you're back. Now you're flying somewhere else. So I wonder if they just couldn't. They realized they had to set up the game in that way that it was tough for them to kind of break out of the shackles of this just kind of stop start, you know, pace. And I think just inevitably, as much as I love the helicarrier, just hubs, man, I loved going back to there, and I do want to talk about some of those details. It was always just kind of let the air out of the balloon every time. You're just like, oh, back at the table. And so the best moments were when you had to go immediately into a mission. It was nice having the choice, but it kind of took. It didn't have that.
And the load times are long, like obviously.
That Spider-Man has.
Yeah.
But I thought it was smart, knowing that they're following the MCU. You know, I think we got all of our kind of like character concerns out of the way, you know, even before this game launched. We were just like, these people look weird, but we're going to play this anyway. But I thought it was smart to break the Avengers up in a way that did not happen in the MCU. We had Civil War, but that was mostly just kind of like an internal fight, where this was definitely like the world, kind of like the Incredibles. Like the world was like, you're done. Like you cannot do this anymore. We will not welcome the Avengers if they return. Focusing on MODOK, Monica, Kamala, characters that we don't know. All of those seem like very deliberate choices to kind of, you know, take us in directions that the MCU didn't.
Yeah,
as someone who has, you know, extensively studied it, Hubert, did you find that as well?
My favorite scene in this entire game, bar none, was Heroes Park. I think that scene is so powerful. There's so much going on underneath the surface. I was really impressed by it. There's like there's someone in the park kind of, you know, wishing for the Avengers to return. It was clearly, you know, we don't know his backstory, but something went down. He misses them, and these like bullies come and bully him and kind of beat him up, and immediately Kamala comes to his rescue, you know, doesn't stand on the sidelines, like comes and says something and does something. And the bully, you know, he lost his brother during A-Day. So you can relate to that. Like the guy lost his brother. He's pissed at all these heroes, like this power he doesn't understand. And then Kamala gets triggered and like beats him up. And then the guy that she's helping is scared of her and it says, don't touch me. Like, get away from me. Like, just thinking about that scene gives me chills. I love it so much. Just the fear of the other and multiple perspectives and just kind of the state of superheroes in the world. Like, that scene really established it and kind of where we're at. I just thought it did so much emotionally and, like, lore-wise. Just, I really, really liked it.
I think what the game kind of had working against it was expectations going into it, because you talk about it and it's like, here are all the characters we're adding, here's all of the moves that they have, right? And definitely this is Kamala's story, and I feel like they even said that as much, but it's weird playing the beta, right? And being like, oh man, I really like the way Black Widow plays, and then you're playing the campaign, you're like, it's just going through the back of your mind, like, I wonder when I'm going to get to play Black Widow. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I agree that Kamala was the best part, but I think maybe they could have, I don't know, presented it in a better way, I guess, like sort of focused it even more, done a better job of kind of like setting up what people were in for, because it was definitely weird, even talking to some of you guys, where it's like, yeah, we're playing, we can only play as Kamala and Hulk right now, and that's cool, but I'm really excited to play as Iron Man. When is that happening? Or Thor, when is that happening? Oh, Thor's left and I can't use him anymore, and I was just kind of getting into his moveset. And so I think it's just kind of like the nature of the game, where like you go into Avengers Initiative and it's like, okay, I can select anybody and build them up. Well, in the campaign, I'm a lot more limited. And I think both of those are okay. It's just there's kind of like this natural awkwardness there in a way.
To me, I mean, Cap's my boy. So I was waiting that like the whole time, and that had a double-edged effect where the part of me, that moment really resonated for me. I like Cap being like, hey, are you okay? You okay, Tony? And Tony's like, yeah, I'm just it's gonna sound like him and Spider-Man at the end game, just like I'm just glad to have you back, man. Wasn't even expecting this. I didn't even know you're gonna be here. But at the same time, the entire campaign, Ben, I was like, when's it gonna happen? And it was a strange thing in the marketing to be like, is he in it? It's like he's got a skill tree. Of course, what are you talking about? Like it was strange, how they handled it.
And
go ahead.
I just wanted to say, to your point about Captain America, like I enjoy Captain America in the MCU. I'm not like the biggest Captain America fan or anything like that, but I had a blast playing him. Like I think just his moveset is so much fun. And like just kicking back the shield at people, it's a blast. And I think once you get a taste of that, like let's say you jump into multiplayer before finishing the campaign, and then you jump into the campaign and you're like, oh, I kind of missed that. I get that completely.
I think narratively I liked it when it was more small scale though, so it never bothered me. I was like, I like when it's just Kamala and Bruce. So I was never like, yo, when are these Avengers coming? I need more. I need the assemble. Like I didn't... Like, the bold move would have been, like, not assembling yet or something. I don't know. Like, I liked the bonds of...
I wanted to assemble,
Kamala
bro. It's like, the beginning of the game, you get this tutorial of every single character. Yeah. And it's like, here's Captain America. Oh, just kidding. You're not going to play for that guy for like 8 hours.
A long-ass time.
Hope you remember everything by the time you actually get to him. You're like,
right,
cool, dude.
I actually think that's a good point. I think kind of the A-Day taste does sort of plant that in your brain even more. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a question too.
Sure.
I probably missed it. Why the hell was Cap like in space, like in some weird thing?
It was a secret AIM facility, and I think they like found him. I do not recall how he survived that. I guess just because he's Cap. He's just a super soldier, so he just.
I was just like, why is
helicarrier
what is happening right now? Like,
they were using his DNA and his like super serum regenerative shit for their technological gains. They're like using his body Orochimaru status.
Like soldiers or something, or
and the whole cloning shit too.
They were using it directly on MODOK, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, and like regeneration.
Mainly.
That was the special sauce that was making the effects, the stuff happening to MODOK not kill him.
It's like, oh, this is weird, dude. I'm just in space right now.
But another good example, it's like they didn't, Cap feeling used, Cap feeling like invaded, and like Cap feeling like he's, if following the MCU in the comics, like he's very attached to just the whole super soldier program and just kind of what it means to have the powers that he has and other people that do, and in their abilities. And so like that created a potential relationship between him and MODOK that just, it's kind of thrown out the window. They didn't really like do anything.
Shit. I don't remember if they went like more into like the event of A-Day, like him locking like Cap in the room, like going more into that.
A little bit. They do show him that he's the one that actually blew up the helicarrier, and I like that moment with Tony where they're driving and they're a little quiet, and Tony's like, "Why did you do that?" And he's like, "Because it would have killed so many people. And he's like, well, it did. It killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
He's like, it would have killed more people. It would have been
Right.
absolutely,
Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely
that-
catastrophic.
Couldn't just land it further away, Cap?
Whenever Kamala was not there, I was just like not nearly as invested. Like,
Here's the thing, Huber. I got like sick of Kamala kind of near the end. Like, I liked her at the beginning, and it was cool, like her like being super excited about Avengers, but she kind of was like that the whole game. Like, yeah, assemble. I'm like, yeah, cool. Even doing this for a little while.
Even at the end, even in Initiative, that's just kind of like, she's in the Queen
Like,
jet
yeah, I
getting
get
ready,
that,
she's,
but
she's very spunky.
I just think it was too much for me at a point.
I think because when you finish fully Avengers Initiative, you do get that secret cutscene where they initiate her for real into
Cool.
the Avengers, which is awesome.
That is
so I
awesome.
think like after that now, maybe she'll tone it down. Because
Like,
she wasn't
be
like,
nerding out about Avengers stuff. Like,
or dude, when like Captain
forever?
Marvel comes or like new
Yeah.
heroes, she'll probably like keep up that mentality. I relate to it. I don't know. I just loved it.
Well, that brings us, to like the extension of this game, like all of the extra bonus stuff that we're getting. And before we get into Avengers Initiative specifically, I just want to talk about something that like I just geek out about the whole time. It just makes me feel happy. Kind of similar in the way when I like log into an MMO and I'm in like Darnassus and I'm like, it's just like you find a place that's a home in a game. And like I really enjoyed the recreation of the helicarrier. I loved it. Like they all kind of got a piece of it. I like when Tony gets there and like Tony's got to fix parts. That it's not just like, hey, we got the engine running, the ship's back. It's like we got to get the thing fixed that makes, we got to get Jarvis plugged in. We got to get him hooked up to the internet. We got to get, so we can make suits, which contextualizes like how you can make suits, how they can have like different outfits and stuff. When like S.H.I.E.L.D. is added on and like the vendors appear there. But one of my favorite little details is if you pick any of the characters and you go into their room,
Yes.
they notice stuff. So like
Yes.
there's like the Crystal Dynamics Peggy Carter that's like on like has her picture frame like on the window and he's like, hey Peggy, she's a blonde, she looks like looks nothing like the one from the MCU and that to be considering you couldn't even go into Peter's apartment in Spider-Man. Like Peter was like, well, where's Peter live? Not important. And I'm like, you can go to the lab and I'm like, I don't care about the lab. I want to see like Feast is cool, but like I really appreciated that they have a spot that Hawkeye's like his door's closed, locked. Nobody can go in there. I did like that little touch, and I liked seeing just walking by Thor, and he's like, Steve, when I'm Cap. Like I like those little details, and I hope they bring more stuff like that. Like you were saying, Huber, when new heroes come in, those lines are there as well. These interactions between the characters.
Brandon, it's so amazing to me, and I think kind of encapsulates my feelings on this game. How they can do some of that so perfectly well. Pretty much everything that you described, or even just going to the fabricator to like, turn in your blueprints, and Kamala's there, and she's like, her hands are pressed against the glass, and she's all excited, and you're like, oh, this is great. This is making this like a little bit better than it would be otherwise. But then there are other things where I'm like, how can you show that much love and care and be so on point with kind of the way that you're building up this world, and then have other decisions that are just like nitpicky at first, but like become way more grating after you put in hours upon hours and hours. And it's like, why do I have to go all the way to the other end of this helicarrier and go down these steps just to go to the faction vendor? Why do I have to do that? Why did you put
Why do
him...
I have to load to Anthill to get the dailies and then load the helicarrier to get those dailies? And it's like, dude, before I start playing this game, it's like 15 minutes of prep.
Yeah, right. And so it's like, why did you make that decision? Or like, again, just simple things like it's kind of funny, but when that Inhumans faction vendor is like, or faction mission giver is like, seriously, you're the best. Seriously, you're the best. And it's like, it's kind of funny, but then you're like, it couldn't be more here. Or the cosmetic woman that's like, oh, you're not gonna fund my coffee habit, and it's like it's kind of funny.
That line's bullshit.
Yeah.
You're telling me they can't afford coffee?
Yeah.
They're in
the air
like a
right now.
floating aircraft thing.
I can't go to an ATM.
Can't get free coffee,
We're
for God's
airborne.
sakes.
What I'm trying to say is, like, I would see something exactly like you're describing, like going to somebody's room is really, really cool, and like all the different things that you could interact with. But then I would have something else that would totally take me out of the world as well. And I felt like it's like in and out, in and out, in and out. as well. And you're always going to get
Marvel-
some gaminess. But,
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the most inconsistent games.
Yeah. I feel that way.
Oh,
sure.
shit. It's a mixed bag. Yeah, it's just like I had a really interesting conversation with Greg Miller because he reached out and he was like, "What do you think of Avengers?" And I was like, "It's bad, and I can't stop playing." He was like, "Me too." Just like, I'm really curious. I'm really excited to see the future of this game.
Same.
But I just have to think back on the Divisions and the Destinies, stuff that like just launched, and Grimoires and just super bizarre narrative decisions, and then how you can add more stuff to it, how bringing in new characters and new scenarios, and how we just following the recording of this or preceding the recording of this spoiler mode, we just had 1,000 things fixed
1.3
that they patched. And we have, already a schedule for at least 2 new characters that are coming before the end of the year. So there is a future. It's just rough start.
That's actually something that I wanted to ask you guys, like about the future of this game, because I would say last week and the week before, I was like really in it. Like I was logging in, and I was having problems, and I was getting annoyed. But I was getting enough enjoyment out of the game where I was still, like, specifically the combat, like I was getting enough out of it that I was having a good time. And it was kind of feeding that dopamine hit of progression enough that I was enjoying playing it consistently. And then I think it was like last Friday or something, I hadn't logged in, and I was like, I missed the daily challenges or whatever. I was like, I'll get it tomorrow. And then I started playing other things, started playing like Spelunky 2 and getting really addicted to that. Yeah. And today I was playing the Crash 4 demo and just having a great time and thinking like, man, this is so well constructed. And then it kind of hit me. It's like all of these great games are coming and next gen is right around the corner. And it's like, I am enjoying playing Avengers, but I think I have enough problems with it that now that I'm a little removed from it, it's hard to prioritize it now over other stuff that's coming down the pipe.
Ben, dude, 100%. I was in the grind. I was obsessed. So I was like, dude, 100%. I'm gonna level 50 every character. Got my Hulk to 50, got Iron Man to 50, and then I was like, all right, I want my Hulk to be like max power level. I'm at 149 now, but the faction missions are bugged. And that means that I can't pick up the villain sector missions, which give you DNA keys, and then you use those DNA keys on the chests in the shield vault missions, and those give you upgrade modules. You then use your modules on gear to raise it all the way up to 140. So I need one more piece to it's at 136, and I need 50 or so upgrade modules. But I was just doing the same shit over and over, and it's like, dude, I'm burnt out. I'm already burnt out. It's been a week and a half.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to do and no drive to do it, because then if I get that 1 point for Hulk, it's like, okay, so what do you want me to do with this 150 Hulk? I'm a little concerned with how quickly the well has dried up. I know they're like, hey, new characters and missions coming, but then the other side of me is also concerned that when Kate Bishop and Hawkeye Clint come, that those missions are going to last an hour or two. And then it's going to be right back to the standard villain sector grind, hive grind, shield vault grind.
Right.
And I'm a lot more concerned now than I was a few weeks ago. And it's like, are they waiting for the next gen launch to be the real deal? Is this the soft launch until next gen when the game's going to have the SSD and you're going to be able to load all these things? The Hawkeye will be there. Is that going to be the start of this game? I don't know.
I think it would greatly benefit.
Right now.
I think it would greatly benefit from literally a button you just log in and press. Even something that's aside from Avengers Initiative, that's just guess what I would like to do? I would like to do all the faction missions that are available today. I don't care what mission I do. Just let's play this game. Let's go. And then they're like, oh, well, this person queued up and said they need some help. I'm like, great. And then just like World of Warcraft did that. I mean, albeit a long time ago, but when they added the system where you're just like, I'm a tank. Let's go, and they're like, okay, and the QA of Final Fantasy 14 has that,
It's also,
it's just
absurdly...
the procedure of getting ready, like you said, is so cumbersome.
Totally. And this is a multiplayer game that is infinitely easier to play by yourself. It is way too hard to group up with people. I tried joining Bossman in Progress numerous times. It wouldn't work. I saw Jones playing. I went to load up on him, and it's like, okay, wait for him to finish this mission. And I like went to do a research break, and like Jones probably didn't even realize. Like I went to do a research break, got my drinks ready, came back, and it's like, yo, waiting for this person to finish. And it's like, dude, screw this. Like I'm just gonna play now.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah, and then even that, like, grinding your characters up to level 50, kind of the easiest way is to do harm missions, but then those don't drop gear. So it's like you get in this weird zone where you can have a level 50, but like really low power level.
Yeah, the
and then it's like
stuff. It'd be nice if there was gear in there.
So then you want me to do, when I'm a max level character, you want me to cherry pick specific power level missions. Like, there's no simple, easy way to, like you were saying, Jones, to just play a mission with friends and get rewarded for it. You have to, like, overly plan and pick
bad.
a person with the appropriate power that your friend is not using to then do this specific mission. Like, way too many hoops.
I think it was built that way to give the player choice that doesn't matter. You know, it's they wanted to give people the options of like, oh, you know, this mission's so great, let me take you into it. And it's like no one's doing that. And I think I've seen that shift happen many times with online games where there's just this idea of like, here's how our audience is going to play the game, and they're like, no, we don't care about that stuff. And so then there's like a 180 after the fact of like, okay, sorry, we'll change that or we'll reorganize that. Yeah, I'm hoping. I don't know if you saw. There was apparently a secret lab that was like there's just some new areas that are apparently in the code.
The AIM secret lab is supposed to be a raid or something.
Right. So I'm hoping for just new environments once we get these new characters. Some new enemy types and stuff like that. I think hopefully the free part of it, because it's just impossible to feel that now. You know, it's like we're at the end of the content that is in the original game. Like you were saying, it's like, if these new characters come out and I just jump in and it's 2 hours of content, it's like, we technically didn't have to pay for, the 2 hours of content. And so it's just kind of nice. It's kind of like Game Pass, you're just like, oh, I own that game? Great.
Totally.
It's like, you'll just kind of, remember after the fact, like, oh, right, they added those new characters. I don't necessarily feel a rush to play them, but like maybe over the holidays, I'll just kind of run through and check out all that content.
That is nice. I would still maybe like seasonal content. Like
totally.
I hope that happens. That's the main reason I still dabble with Fortnite. Like it's Avengers season now in Fortnite, and it makes playing for those, however many months, 3-4 months, like rewarding, different, unique. Like the map changes, the reward changes, and I hope, that's what Avengers does.
I think when you have a game like this, it can't be overstated. Like, the easier you make things for the player, the more they'll want to engage. And, like, all of these things sound, like, really small individually, but I think they add up to burning out quickly. Like, I can't tell you the number of times where it's like, oh, wait, what was my daily or weekly challenge? And then it's like, I gotta hit the button, like, kind of it takes a second for it to load in, and then it's like, okay, I gotta scroll over to the challenge tab, and it's like, okay, I gotta go down to this icon, and it's like, this one is this. Like, you actually have to go and like hover over them individually to get them. Yeah. It's not, they're not even just like right there on the screen.
That's a really good point.
And it's again, like, not that big of a deal on its own, but it adds up and becomes very, very, very frustrating. Or like when it says you have new faction rewards and you just kind of like get there and you're like, okay, guess I gotta like load into the Chimera and go down and do this thing. And I think streamlining all that stuff would go a long way. And just because I've been playing it recently, it's at the forefront of my mind. But Spelunky 2, I mean, you'll have heartbreaking, soul crushing, like fuck this game forever deaths. But when you die, it's just like, you can just hit square and try again. And I can't tell you the number of times that being able to instantly load in and just do a run again, like, I didn't even give myself time to think about it. They just made it so easy and convenient that I kind of got over that frustration hurdle immediately.
All the fuck this moments in Avengers are like from tech issues.
Yeah.
Where it's like, shit, it ain't working. I can't play with my friends. That's like not the fuck this kind of issue you want from this game. That's the stuff where it's like, with me, I'm never going to play this game unless I'm playing with you guys, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, even like a fundamental problem of multiplayer, like I finally got it working with strangers once or twice, and my immediate story, my immediate engagement with playing with random strangers in this online multiplayer video game was, I want to go over here and get these chests because those have upgrade modules and gear. That is what I need. Like, let's go get these chests. I go get it. It's really close. He takes the other two AI companions to the objective. I'm over here by myself, get downed, waiting for a revival for like 30 seconds. Nobody comes. I'm dead, fully dead. And it's just like, like, would public spaces be weird? I'm pretty sure the devs talked about that, of it breaking the illusion of having all these different Hulks running around, but then couldn't a public zone be maybe somehow up to 6 players? And it, is that tech too complicated or expensive? Like just a public zone where you can go in and do objectives freely with people and group up naturally. Like that is so essential in a game like Destiny, where you're playing by yourself, but then you're pulled together with people and you actually work hand in hand together. I don't feel that level of craft in Avengers.
And also they're just decisions that, like, because when I was playing, I would be like, man, I'm kind of getting bored of this. Maybe queuing up with random people would make this more fun. And, you just hit the matchmaking button and you're just like, well, I'm not getting anybody. Guess I'll do this by myself. And so, you go and you do the mission, and then you're playing as Captain America, and you're like, man, I haven't played as Captain America in a while. This is really cool. Like, I love the way that he plays. And you're like, oh, I can't smash through this door for no reason. And I feel punished for using this character and playing by myself. Like, Hulk's right there. Yeah. Like Hulk's standing right next to me.
Right.
Why can't I just like hit a button and say, Hulk, please smash through this door? Yeah. Like it
because then that'll bring consideration to who you bring.
Right.
You're like, well, it's on me for only bringing characters that can't do anything.
And I think making you consider who you're bringing is really cool. I just don't feel like that is the way to do it. Like that feels frustrating in a way that I don't understand, because if I was playing with other people and if your matchmaking worked, then I could just have the person who's playing Hulk or Kamala or whoever just burst through the door. And so it doesn't feel like it's accomplishing what you want it to accomplish.
I was specifically referring to like the other three, that you would, that like I I got to a point where I wasn't bringing Iron Man purely just because I was tired of his VO. It had nothing to do. It's like, it's great to have somebody up in the air, supporting me, but
I can't handle it.
And just in general, I've been playing it after 2 weeks and playing it for a while. It'd be like it'd be super fun if I could like not give them like gambits or anything, but like it'd be fun if I could tell Hulk to just like, hey, can you just run around? Can you stop? Or like Iron Man, there's like 10 drones, please? Can you please? It's like it's a bummer having Thor and Iron Man in the party, and I'm like, Cap's the one who has to take care of all of the flying enemies. It's like, that's kind of a bummer. I will say this though, because there are a lot of problems with this game, but I am hoping that they are able to get all the content that they want in the game. There have been like leaks and stuff like that. There are, a lot of characters' names that are included in there. There are rumors for stuff that they, were potentially going to announce this year. The reason I can't put this game down is this is the superhero game I've been waiting for my entire life. Like I've been waiting for this Superman game. I've been waiting for this X-Men game. I've been waiting for this Justice League game. I've been waiting for a game because I know a lot of people are just like, another giant forest. And I'm like, yes! I'm like, let's just run and just have like a lot of space. Like it just doesn't happen. Like those superhero games just don't exist. Like they're the Arkham series and Spider-Man, but they're always focused on one character. And so getting this getting a superhero multiplayer game where I can look up is like, whoa.
And
finally, like Marvel Heroes was great. Ultimate Alliance is a kick, but it just to counter what you were saying at the beginning of this, Ben, where you're just talking about Cap and his abilities, like one of my favorite things that Cap can do is if you chuck a shield at somebody, it'll stun them. Like even if it doesn't like put them in a sleepy state, they'll stop. So if like there was one moment where I'm like, God, I feel like Chris Evans, man. I was just pummeling a guy, and I looked to my right, and this guy like got a cannon up and was just about to shoot, and I just went no, and kept fighting the guy I was fighting, and then got the shield back, and then went over to get him, and like it stopped him for just enough time, and it's just like, I've never been that precise. I've never cared to be in a superhero game that was not Spider-Man or the Arkham series.
And
so
I feel
that's
so
keeping
good
me going.
When I'm Hulk and I'm smashing right next to you, Jones, it feels freaking good. Like when I have an enemy and I'm just like, douche, 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 dude, and Jones is like right over there watching, like I feel good.
Yeah, I mean that was absolutely the thing that was keeping me with the game. Like I put more time into Black Widow than anybody. Like I have a
I think
level
both you
50.
and Huber have put more time in than me, and I'm reviewing it.
I've got a level 50, I think power 141, something like that, Black Widow, and the reason is like I hit that button and I'm like grappling toward an enemy, or when you're doing that air kick and you just hit them twice and then you go into a triangle attack and like doing the sweep to kind of break their guard. It's just incredibly fun, and I think captures the character, feels good on its own. Like it's exciting to get new abilities and try them out and see where they work within your combos. That's really, really fun. So yeah, I think that is something that is to the game's credit, and to kind of what you were talking about the future, right? And being disappointed about like playing 2 hours of story content. I could totally see that being the case, but I think if the characters are generally as well designed as they are in the core game, like at least that's something. Like Black Panther's gonna be awesome. You know, like he's just gonna be flipping around and doing all this cool stuff, and like I'm excited for that. That'll probably keep me in for a while.
Doctor Strange teleport could be fun.
Yeah.
You know? If you're like rushing through a mission really quickly, and Doctor Strange can just be like, "Shh, come on," and you all just whoop, we're there. Like
I agree with you guys. It's really fun when it's like in the moment, like smashing guys. But when I'm playing this game, it feels like someone's just like constantly poking me.
Yes,
And
totally.
just being like annoying about it. Like, yeah, I'm like, but then there's something always there that just kind of like small annoyance. We're playing on, all of us are playing on pros. Like the performance can run like real bad a lot of the times, like a lot of times.
Yeah.
My PS4 Pro is like blasting off into space when I played this game. I don't know why. This is the loudest game.
Me too.
It's like insane.
Not only the loudest, but like consecutively. Like when Avengers goes on and when Avengers stops, it just like the whole time.
Brad, when you talked about people poking you, it's funny because I really think I can defend the character design in terms of mechanics, but I don't think I can defend the encounter design a lot of times, where it's
100%.
A lot of times it feels like you're swatting flies in a way that just like isn't fun. And I'll be like, these drones aren't interesting. They're not really fun to take down. It just sort of feels like busy work, and I don't even feel like it's letting me use the best aspects of my character. Or when you're like trying to, you know, style on somebody, and it's like, oh, you see this like rocket indicator, and it's like, oh, I guess I have to dodge out of the way of that. And I don't feel like there are enough battles that highlight the coolest parts of your character as much as I would like. Because I feel like when I'm having the most fun, it's against kind of the bigger enemies that I can get into a rhythm of, you know, comboing, using my special abilities, parrying them, all that stuff. It's those are the most fun times, but I feel like it's that kind of swallowed up by like all of these annoying flies a lot of times.
Like the only remotely inspired boss to me is also one of the most boring, and that's the flying drone ship thing, the like flying boss, because there's like enemies on the ground that the melee guys need to handle, and then the flyers like go up there and take them out, blah blah blah. It's like that and the big drone, I guess, are the only two fights where I feel like tactics kind of, or like people playing to their strengths kind of. Otherwise it's just uninspired. Teleport some enemies in, beat them up. Teleport some enemies in, beat them up.
Right.
Put some turrets on the wall, teleport them in, beat them up.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're still focusing on a single target, so it would be fun if like there's one end part where it just, you go into a battlefield and it's just like you gotta pick what you're gonna focus on. It's not so obvious that like, oh, look at this big thing, look at those weak points. Yeah, I am. I'll tell you the happiness that I'm taking away from this conversation. That your characters are so high level, Huber and Ben. Thank you so much for putting in that work. That Brad, you are still willing to play with us if more content is released, and that we really specifically go into this, but that we've kind of settled into. You know, I like playing as Cap. Brad, you like Thor. Ben, you've been focusing on Black Widow, and you know, Hulk. You know, being Huber's favorite was not that much of a surprise. I'm probably going to switch over to Hawkeye big time. You know, when he comes out. So like, I just want to say thank you for being at least, willing to give this game another shot and to possibly revisit it, and hopefully they stay true to their promise and it doesn't cost you guys anything.
It really is like Destiny in a way, where like the joke for the longest time, and like still kind of is. I mean, maybe not lately, but for so long with Destiny 1 and even 2, it was like, I hate this game, but I play 3,000 hours. I hate this game, but I play every single day. I hate this game, but I log in. It's like there's just some pull to it, man, and it's like
as long as everything. Oh, sorry.
I do want to speak to that because I know I've been very critical, but I feel like I'm being critical from a place of love because I was talking about Black Widow and how great it felt. I really do have fun, not to the same degree across the board, but I really do have fun playing everybody. Mm-hmm. That is pretty remarkable. That's a hard thing to do in a game like this, and I wouldn't have put in as much time if there wasn't some enjoyment there. And so I definitely am ready to love this game, and I think in a lot of ways I do. And so the criticism, I think, feels so pointed because it's coming from that place.
Yeah. Well, it's also so fair, Ben, because we can say, oh, well, Destiny started rough and then Taken King turned it around. Like, that was years ago. Right. Destiny walked so Avengers could run. And it's like, no, Avengers is not running. Avengers is hobbling out of the gate, even though the industry has seen Destiny 1 and The Division and Anthem and Destiny 2, like, out of the gate because of all those games' missteps, like, the Avengers launch should have gone way better. So all of the criticism is 100% fair.
Yeah, I think that is that's just a true point. But I almost kind of feel like this game is fighting itself sometimes, where like when I think of the things that I enjoy, right, it's the characters, it's the skills, it's some of the combat. It almost feels like the things that are Destiny are almost holding it back in a way. Like the way levels kind of translate to gear, or levels translate to like the power level, and when you're like, okay, like I guess I'm 5 power levels behind to do this mission, why don't I upgrade my stuff? And then you upgrade your stuff, and then you're still 5
and you're
power
still
levels
5
behind
what
it.
the hell?
And it's like, well, why is this happening?
That's not easy to understand.
Yeah. And it just feels a little needlessly convoluted, and I don't think the gear is handled well in this game. Like, I almost think that whole system could be turned into something more interesting. And so, I don't know. If they were going to include the Destiny stuff, why not make it better when the blueprint is right there, as you're saying, Huber? Or, like, why not go out of your way to turn this into its own thing? Because I think the shortcomings are, like, especially eye-rolling because they're the same shortcomings we feel like we've been dealing with for an entire generation, right? Like, I think it would almost be more forgivable if they were completely different shortcomings. If it was, like, just broken in some other way, but it feels broken in the exact same way that all of these other games have been broken. Yep. And it's really annoying.
Yep. Like, obviously, we're going to run out of content in a weekend. We play video games. It happens every time, damn it.
You'll hit a point.
I think at the end of the day, Division 2, I think was the last game that I played that I was like, whoa, they are really, really making strides here. They get it, They were still, I still had that thought where I was like, I'm in, and then of course I bailed like 2 weeks later,
But still, they had that raid planned, like the seasons, like they did work for a bit there, like post-launch.
We will see the roadmap. How that plays out later this year, we will see what fixes. I'm excited to jump in and see what those 1,000 fixes potentially did to this game. I'm excited to have this review done. As this video goes up, my review is done. You can go check that out.
Nice.
But no, not as we record this. When this video goes live.
Okay.
Well, still, that's gotta feel like a little bit.
I got
of a
this to cut and the review to cut. I was working on lots of other stuff, and it was easy to put this on the back burner. But I'm thrilled to play this game. I'm thrilled to
Yeah.
like not be constantly in my head about like what value am I getting out of this, and just like I'm gonna do silly dailies and whatever, like do some quick. I'm reading those descriptors. Another thing confusing about the missions is like you got to read the description when it's like it's a quick in and out mission. You're like, that's what I'm looking for. I would love like an average time, where they're like, these usually take like 10 minutes. I'm like, there we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But hopefully I can sucker all of you going into the raids. I know I got Huber.
Yeah,
Dude,
let's
The
do
raid
let's do the
sounds
raid.
like
Let's
the
do
most
raid.
interesting for sure.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Keep those expectations
Oh,
low.
Jones,
I know.
dude.
The fact that it's
You don't have to
AM
worry
again.
about that. You don't have to worry about that, dude.
And another disappointing thing is you get to the secret hive and you think that's going to be some big thing, and it's like, all right, battle through the 16 floors, and when you go through it, it's just
Yeah, it's the same type of
everything
work, yeah.
you've done before
Yeah.
stitched together.
I was hoping it was going to be kind of like raw and fleshy, like Devil May Cry. Like we were going through someone's innards.
Like a bloody
that's kinda what
palace?
that's kind of what I was hoping for. Some like Onimusha vibes, but
sure.
sadly not. Hopefully,
Huber-
maybe Doctor Strange stuff will be kind of creepy that way.
True.
At this point, I think like the biggest selling point, and all they would need to say, like they could do like some big blog post, and they could just say, "And it's not going to be AIM," and I'd just be like, "Yeah, woo!"
To circle back right before I can tell we're wrapping up here, the post-game teasers with the Kree sentry shooting a distress beacon up into space.
Yep.
And then obviously Monica still up to no good. What do you guys think the big story content will go? What do you want? What do you want story-wise out of Avengers in the future?
Aliens, please give me some weird enemies. Like I'd love to go to another planet. I'd love to like
Nice.
Yes, that would be good.
Asgard.
so
like
that's
the way
actually
you feel when you're
something-
on like Morag and Vormir, and it's just stars and
Dude.
weird constellations and stuff. I think
Good
that would
call.
be great.
Good call.
To get
Great
myself hyped for Avengers, I actually played through all of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and I played through the DLC. And
Wow.
that's actually something that game does that I think does a really good job. So every chapter, you are going someplace completely different. Like it's hell, or in the DLC, you're going to like Doctor Doom's fortress. And yes, Brandon, I just want to go someplace that it's comic books. You can do anything.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere. And I
Hopefully
think
they're
when they-
working up to it.
Dude, Wakanda.
For that money is
Yeah.
spent
Sure.
as we speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, there might possibly be good opportunities to return to this in the future, and we will see how this game evolves. Hopefully, this is something. And of course, and it's like you were talking about performance, Brad. This game is. I felt wrong to mention that in the review specifically, but it's so clearly made for Series X
PS5,
and PS5.
yeah.
Like that, they clearly just had the blueprint down, and they were just like, "Good luck, PS4 Pro." Like,
One last thing as well, just what you want out of the future. I think this is something that even the MCU does a poor job of at times, is when they add new characters, I don't want to just be like, okay, cool, the new characters are here, we're just going to kind of continue as normal. Like, I really want to be like, oh, this new character is adding a whole new dimension to the story, right? Like, I want to play them because they just feel narratively essential, not like stapled on, and just... That would mean a lot to me.
that the grand story of Avengers is proceeding through these characters
Yes.
being added. That it's not.
Yes.
10 out of 10 anticipation for Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel to meet each other. I need it. I need
Dude.
that scene.
You know what I want the most, man? I don't know if they got the balls to do it though, because it's gonna be hard to do. Galactus.
Thanos.
No,
Oh,
Galactus.
shit.
That would be a great way to wrap the whole.
How the
thing
hell
up.
are you gonna
Yeah.
handle that?
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
And
Fortnite,
playing,
dude.
and playing villains.
You know,
Yeah,
Galactus
that's
is
actually
Fortnite,
cool,
but
Jones.
You can have a reformed villain or like their own villain layer. You can do those missions separately. Even
villain
if it's
section?
like much less than the hero stuff. Like, yeah. But again, don't want to talk about that for too long because I start to get excited and then my brain's like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Easy. But I just want to point out as we wrap up the spoiler mode, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for being patrons of Easy Allies. And thank you, gentlemen, because all of you backed me up. All of you were there when we did the beta. All of you were there in the review, helping me with your opinions and, bringing my silly fanboy hype down to a reasonable level. But I really had fun with you, and I'm looking forward to teaming up and doing these raids. And I just want to wrap this video up by saying, truly, the three of you, from the bottom of my heart, seriously, you're the best.
It's just not lining up. There's something wrong and I can feel it. Don't you?